Ensuring protection against cyber threats of all kinds is already a critical aspect of doing business today. And therefore, in today's next industry session, Dhanalakshmi PK, Senior Director, Malware and Intelligence Research at Cyble, is very pertinently going to talk about digital risk protection for IT supply chain resilience. Welcome, Dhanalakshmi.
Hi everyone, I am Dhanalakshmi, Senior Director, Malware and Research Intelligence Cyble. Today we are going to discuss about digital risk protection for IT supply resilience. As per Gartner study, top CIO priorities for 2021 and beyond are remodeling of core technologies, like adapting to the technologies such as AI, ML, as well as the cloud computing in order to faster their enterprise solutions to meet the business needs. Fulfilling the digital demands accelerated by COVID-19 pandemic. This pandemic has raised in concerns in terms of adoption of CIOs to take the digital transformations of supporting environment where it can support the employees to adapt to the hybrid as well as work from home model. Building supply chain resilience is one of the key concern to CIOs because COVID has demonstrated the fragility of these supply chain attacks, and this is where all the attackers are targeting. Let us fire a light on the supply chain attacks which happened in 2021. We Cyble Research Lab has identified 3x increase in supply chain attack during 2021. Most of these incidents were related to third parties and supply chain, cyber incidents specifically. And as per our study, we identified that 66% of these attacks were aimed to compromise suppliers' code, and 58% of advisories were interested in the customer data for their financial motivation. And out of these attacks, most of them, exactly like 50% of them mapping back to the well-known APT groups as well as ransomware groups. Digital transformation journey, that a speedy digital transformation journey created an opportunity for the cyber advisors and threat actors to target supply chain. So as we see in the timeline of supply chain attacks reported from January 2021 to December 2021, there has been around 50 plus events has been observed through as a supply chain attacks. Due to the nature of the supply chains, fragility nature of the supply chains, it has been targeted by the attacker. The notable events which are like colonial pipeline attack, Kaseya, Coronos Group, and Spar stores got impacted by the supply chain attack. And let us move on with discussing the prominent supply chain attack which has been observed in 2021. In December 2021, Coronos Group, a leading HR solution provider, has disclosed that they were attacked by the ransomware group. Till date, none of the advisory hasn't taken responsibility of that attack. And this was basically affected the Kronos private cloud, where along with the other services which has been hosted there. Due to this attack, the consumers of Kronos were affected, and more than 22,000 business were impacted in their payroll processing, timely payroll processing. UKG is still investigating the issue to identify the sensitivity of the data leaks related to this attack. And another prominent attack, as we all know, is Kaseya VSA supply chain has been attacked by the notorious ransomware group called Rebel Ransomware Group in July 2021. The attack was carried out by exploiting the zero-day vulnerability in Kaseya VSA, and then distributing the ransomware through their auto update all of their consumers. As per the threat actor, it has been said more than millions of organizations has been impacted, and this is one of the most massive supply chain attack which has been occurred in 2021. And this group particularly demanded for 70 million ransomware to get their decryption key. Coming back to near to our home, this Pine Labs, an Indian merchant platform company, providing the financial solutions to their retail transaction technology, has been impacted by a black matter ransomware in August 2021. This particular attack, this ransomware group has successfully exfiltrated the larger data set, which is of like 100 GB of data, which leads to the sensitive, 500,000 of sensitive data disclosure. And that sensitive data includes the data sets, PII informations and banking informations, as well as the other information related to the Pine Labs and their consumers. So because of this particular attack, supply chain attack, multiple Indian banks and institutions were impacted. So as per our study on this kind of supply chain attacks, not only monetary losses provides gives on monetary losses, along with that they were also like organization has faced a lot of reputational loss, operational loss, etc. Let us move on discussing about like what are all the challenges in supply chain attack. Basically, being an organization, the organization has a very less visibility to their supplier security posture, and poor management practices from the mid-size or smaller size suppliers is also one of the problems. And sometimes the unavoidable privilege escalations to the third party is required for their operations, but that creates a larger attack surface for the attackers. And organizations also face inability to enforce this data security on the supplier side. Probably when the data goes out of their perimeter, it is very hard for them to like enforce the security controls. And lack of cyber security monitoring program from the supplier side is one of the key factors that leads us to like difficult to secure the supply chain attacks. To accelerate their business, all the suppliers and like vendors initiate their digital transformation and cloud adoption, but without having the security guardrail to those product leads to an difficult situation to secure the supply chains. So with that, let us discuss about the best practices and mitigation techniques that has to be taken care of, supposed to be adopted by the organization and suppliers. So organizations and its suppliers should implement a zero trust policy. And they have organizations supposed to identify, analyze, and document type of suppliers and partners. And they have to define the digital risk criteria, prioritization for the different type of supply chain partners. Whereas like, importance based on the importance of that supplier and criticality of the data involved in that supply chain, they have to come up with the prioritization as well as the digital risk criteria. Assess the digital risk according to their own business continuity and impact assessment requirement. And organizations should proactively monitor themselves and as well as their suppliers' exposure, identity exposure, sensitive data leaks, critical vulnerabilities through a rigid threat intelligence program or dark web monitoring and deep web monitoring, as well as OSINT monitoring. And organizations should ensure that their supplier employees and personnel is aware of the security risk and digital risk and perform the timely and effective mitigation in case of incident. Then lastly, like the best framework for supply chain cybersecurity has 5 key elements in it, starting with dark web and open internet monitoring. So the organization is supposed to monitor their suppliers and suppliers' exposure, like compromised credit cards, compromised credentials exposure, sensitive data leaks through an OSINT as well as their dark web intelligence. And suppliers should also, organization should also have a proper third-party cyber risk scoring process and practices that can be achieved through like closely monitoring the data exposures of their suppliers in dark and deep web as well as surface web, and attack surface monitoring and public breaches, and assigning the proper risk score to their suppliers and vendors, as well as like informing them with that identified risk at earliest. Attack surface management is one of the key element as well for the organizations as well as for the suppliers too. So basically, all these organizations supposed to monitor. Organizations need to monitor their public-facing assets, vulnerabilities, code leaks through their code repos, and data exposures through S3 buckets and other Azure blobs, etc. And effective monitoring of the targeted malware campaigns to their suppliers, industry-specific, as well as their industry-specific threats. Early intelligence will help them to like reduce their attack surface. And brand reputation and monitoring, they should have an like third-party brand reputation and monitoring through monitoring their exposures like fake domains, infringed domains, and typos quoted domains to their organization as well as the suppliers, and also effectively monitoring of the phishing URLs and phishing domains, and even their social exposures through social media monitoring. And as soon as they get to notified with these infringed domains, impersonated domains, they're supposed to like take a necessary action, such as like taking down that services immediately. And last but not least is like threat and cybercrime intelligence play a vital role. So early warning and early intelligence will help organizations and its suppliers to protect themselves from the targeted attacks to the supply chain. This can be achieved through monitoring the cybercrime conversation and mentions about their forums, and even their security, their data leaks, their exposures in code leaks, data repos, etc. And collecting all the intelligence, creating advisories to the suppliers, and giving them an early warning will help them to protect from the supply chain attack. Thank you so much.
Those were highly relevant points indeed. Thank you, Dhanalakshmi, for that notable session.